Hey y'all, and welcome to The Wannabe Author. I'm Taryn, a writer figuring out how to turn my publishing dream into reality, one chaotic step at a time. This is the place where we talk books, writing struggles, mental health, and everything in between. Whether you're a writer, a reader, or just curious about the process, I am so glad you're here. Let's jump in. Sponsor me, Hydro Drug. Hey y'all, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I had the absolute privilege of interviewing one of my favorite authors. Today's author was originally self-published back in June of 2023 with her debut novel, Call It What You Want. It is a beautiful piece of literature that follows the heartbreaking situationship between a young, helpless romantic and a boy who just cannot commit. I have read, cried over, and encouraged anyone and everyone to read this book and have deemed it one of my favorite books ever. Later in January of 2024, Source Books picked up this gorgeous debut and traditionally published it in the summer of 2024. It is my honor to introduce you all to Alissa DeRogatis. That was solid. Unfortunately, my dumb butt lost the video footage, so you can listen, but you will not get the privilege of seeing Alissa's gorgeous face the way I got to. I apologize. Anyway, enjoy the episode. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm so great. Thanks for doing this with me.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. You look so good.
Oh.
Sorry, I've had like a day today already.
Stop. I know you've been so busy, so thanks for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, I haven't honestly even been that busy. It's just been like in that holiday slump where I'm like, I have stuff to do, but like the motivation to do it is just like not there. So
I completely get that. I've been dying over here.
And I'm like full repping my sweatshirt over here.
As you should. As you should. It's so cute. I'm obsessed with that color.
Oh, yeah, I'm over the pink. I'm ready to have something new, but
really?
You know how it takes, or how long all of that takes.
No, for sure. Yes. I'm getting it. I'm getting there. Well, before we begin, I like to share my current reads, any updates I have on publishing, just to keep everyone up to date. So if you want to share your current reads, anything you want to share regarding current projects, I can even go first if you want.
Yeah, do you want to go first? Yeah. And then I could just okay, cool.
For sure. So I'm actually reading Iron Gold by Pierce Brown right now. So good. I'm in my sci-fi era. I don't know what it is, but can't get out of it. And then regarding publishing, I'm on submission. Got my first rejection, actually. What was it? Right before Christmas. So that's exciting. I actually was pretty excited about it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. I feel like it's definitely probably better to have something than nothing.
Yeah. No, it's been good because I was like, oh, okay, it's actually happening. We're actually out on submission.
Yeah. The first one is always hard. I think we went out with 13 and I think I had everyone except for one come back with a no. Really? And so it's just like, keep going. No, you're awesome. And you know what? You're killing it. So I love that.
No. So what about you?
Honestly, I haven't been reading a ton. The last book I read was The Wedding People, and that was back in like October-ish. But I've been reading this break books that aren't released yet, to blurb them. So I read one in November called Climbing in Heels by Elaine Goldman. She has a hyphenated last name.
No, you're good.
But that was a really good one. She works with J-Lo. She's like her agent, her talent agent. So she stepped into this role of like writing, and then it already got picked up for a TV series deal with Darren Star, who's the producer of like Emily in Paris and
how cool
Back in the City. So that was really fun to read.
Yeah,
it's a great book. Highly recommend. It's like set in the 50s maybe, and it's all about women trying to like take down like the man club that is agencies at that time. And then I have a friend in Charlotte who just wrapped up her sophomore novel called The Wingman, and I'm reading that right now, and that one seems really cute. It's about two college best friends who like wingman each other. And I think it's more like a second chance romance, but I don't know. I haven't gotten halfway through yet. So
Stop. Those actually sound so good. I'm excited for those.
yeah, me too.
So
It's fun to like read new releases, but then like no one like they don't even have covers yet, so it's like
Yeah.
tough to like promote them too. But I'm excited.
No, I get that. No, that's super cool. Those are fun reads. You're reading like crazy. What are you talking about?
No, I've read like 10% of this other book. I'm like, gotta get going.
Well, you're also so busy, so I totally get that. All right. So let's dive in. I did a little brief introduction of you just before the video, or before the episode. So we'll start at the beginning. I gave a tiny synopsis of Call It What You Want, just like a little one-liner, but love to know what inspired you to write your book and why self-publishing was the route you chose to take.
Yes. Okay. This is my favorite question, the inspiration behind it. So I was in a situationship in college and a little bit into post grad, and we dated at the beginning and then it just kind of fell off. And I think I always hoped we would get back there. When we realized like it wasn't going to work, I was really sad, and I started reading a lot because I just had some more free time on my hands, and it was summer. So, a lot of time at the pool and the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting a little bit sick of the romance genre at that point. I had read all the Emily Henrys. I was done with Colleen Hoover. Like, this was back in 2022.
Okay.
And it was really during, and I mean, romance continues to boom, but it was like in the heat of that. And I was like, it'd be really nice to read a book, kind of like the movie Someone Great. I don't know if you've seen that with,
I don't think I have.
it's the actress from Jane the Virgin.
Okay.
I forget her name, but it's, a movie without the happily ever after. It's about a breakup. And
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to write a book like that because I was really into reading at the time, and I just went for it. And it sounds crazy. I was reading back my old journal from that time being like, oh, I want to write a book. Like, I hope I can do it. And then posting about it on TikTok one day. And then people were like, where can we get the book? When is this releasing? And I was like, oh shit, like, I have to read a book. So I think that's part of the reason also why I did self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
One, I was like really, really impatient. Like, I wanted to just like, once I was done, I wanted to get it out there.
Yeah.
And do like the thought of querying. Now that I have friends doing it and they've showed me like Query Tracker and stuff, I'm like, okay, that's not as daunting as people make it seem. But like when I tried to look into it, I was like, nope, not for me.
So, no thanks.
Yeah, so I just kind of did self-publishing, and I already knew I had a friend who could create the cover, and that felt like the two biggest things. But I wish that I had like worked a little bit more with like an editor, or even just, I don't think I know AI and publishing, like my thoughts, I think we shared similar thoughts about how it should not ever be used to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for like grammar stuff, I like wish that I had maybe used some sort of a tool because I didn't. So that was on me. Besides like Grammarly, and that never works.
Wait, I love that. Okay, yeah. I feel like you captured that so well. Your book, and I've also told you so many times, I just love how well you captured like the non-happy ending, but also I feel like it was an empowering ending. You did so well with that.
Thank you. The ending actually didn't even exist in the first draft, and like that's my favorite part of the book. So to like be able to kind of like heal while I was writing it, I think helped me wrap the book the way that like I wanted to.
Oh, for sure. I feel like you can tell what was it? I've been telling friends, like when I tell them about your book, I'm like, you can see just how therapeutic writing this was. I can like, it's just so good.
Thank you.
So self-publishing, are you happy you did it?
Yeah, I think that it was like, again, kind of I feel like timing for this book was everything. Like if you've read the self-published version, again, you'll know that there was like, I've said this a million times, like so many grammar errors, so many plot holes, could have been more character development. I think I did rush through it a little bit, and I didn't have really feedback. Like the people that were reading was like my mom and like a few of my friends that weren't super close friends, because like I didn't want people in my circle to be like reading it yet.
Yeah.
so it was just amateur. It was like, whatever, like it, but at the end of the day, I wanted to write a book to get across like a message. And I think that the people that needed that book, it reached to them, which I'm so grateful for. And I think that if I hadn't self-published, like it probably wouldn't have even come out, or who knows if an agent would have taken it. And like, I think it really, timing was everything for it. And it hit when it needed to, and situationships were at an all-time high. And I mean, they probably still are, but people weren't talking about them yet.
Yeah.
I don't even know the first time I heard the word situationship, because that did not exist when I was in mine. And now I feel like it's like my entire personality. So it's like, but yeah, no, I'm so glad that I self-published. I think that I learned a lot, and it was cool to have control.
Oh, for sure. I can see how that would be so helpful, and you get to go on your own timeline and everything. Completely get that. Yeah. When did you first hear from a publisher, and what was that moment like when you went into traditional publishing?
Yeah, so I released my book on my own on June 2nd, 2023. And like within 2 to 3 weeks, it was #1 in new adult and college fiction on Amazon. Awesome. And I didn't like buy an ISBN. So a little bit of background: when you self-publish, you buy an ISBN, which is like $150 for one, or $300 for 10. And I had like credit card debt. I was like, I'm not going to keep like spending money. Amazon gives you an ISBN, but then you can't go to like other retailers. So really you can only sell on Amazon. And I was like, well, it's probably just easier to have one link anyway. So Amazon was the only place that my book was available. And because I was driving traffic to that link from TikTok, it was like boosting my book in like the numbers. Like even if people weren't buying it, I think it like people clicking or adding it to cart or saving it like helped. So it was #1 within like 2 weeks, and then it started charting in overall books on Amazon, I think like in the 60s. So it's like the top 100 books on Amazon out of like, I think I looked it up once, it was like 38 million or something like that, billion maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And publishers and agents get a notification through like their database that like a book is trending. And my agents reached out to me. So I heard from an agency before a publisher. Okay. And then by the end of the week, so I think this was the end of June, I signed with my agent, and then we went out on submission. July was like, publishing's funny because they take a lot of time off. Like they had like the past 2 weeks off. They have like 2 weeks in the summer. I'm like, I got into the wrong career.
Same.
It's like, I was like, I wish I could have done this. But so July was like, we just worked on getting together an idea for book 2 because they wanted to sell a 2-book deal. And then August we were on submission. And then I think by the end of August was when I found like connected with my editor, which was, like I said, the only one out of all 13 that wanted it. So it's kind of like a little bit of like a underdog story in a way. Like she saw something in the book, and like we took it down for edits for basically 6 months, but the whole process was almost a year because I signed with them in August, we started editing, and then it republished in June of 2024.
Okay.
So it was a long time, which you don't see that in a lot of indie to trad, like Done and Dusted and Unloved. I think they had like a month turnaround. And I remember being like, why can't this be me? And they're like, you have work to do. And I was like, okay.
You're like, rude, but okay.
Yeah. No, and I totally get it. Because like, again, I think I just rushed so much of it that like I learned so much patience, as you know. Like this whole industry is like built off of patience, and I never had any of that before. So
I completely get that. And it's teaching me so many things. Well, confession actually. So I started following you when you first self-published. Okay. I don't know if you know that, but you posted the cutest picture of your like self-publishing like a release date, and I had been writing my book at the time. So I followed you because my favorite color is pink, and I was like, she's got the cutest vibe. So it's fun having seen you go from being self-published, which you were killing it, and that is so cool that you immediately just started trending. So inspiring. And then to see you then go into traditional publishing, I've loved it. just following your whole journey. Huge fan. It's fine.
Thank you.
I'm sweating. Okay, I love that. What have been some of the biggest surprises when transitioning from self-publishing to working with a publisher?
Definitely like what I touched on already. Sorry, I talk a lot, so sometimes I feel
you're
like
totally fine.
20 questions in one. Patience is the first thing. There's also like just things that you like. This is gonna sound so crazy. So basically, so I delivered my full manuscript to them, which was already like what was published. I had to put it into a Word doc, and then I got it back in a Word doc with like a bunch of, edits on the side. And I was like, do I edit in this document or do I start another document? And then they give you an editorial letter, and it's just so like hard. Like you don't know, like no one's walking you through this. Like you don't know the right way to do things. So I remember calling my agent, texting her all the time, being like, what should I do now? Or what should I like? And once you get the hang of it, I think everyone has different styles too. So it's not that big of a deal, but I just realized that there's really no one like guiding you that much.
Yeah.
So like ask questions is the biggest thing. And I always feel like I'm like being annoying because I have so many questions, but I feel like it's always better to ask them than to just like wonder, because it'll give me anxiety. Patience is a big thing that I learned. And like, I was thinking about this the other day when like Taylor Swift will release an album every like, year or two or something. And especially when she was under her big recording contract back in the day, it was every 2 years. So for an author to do it, I feel like it seems like such a long time, but in reality, like it's not. Like I don't even have a name for my next book yet, or a title, like, or a cover or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, 2026 is so far away. And it's like, okay, but there's nothing like I can do about it.
Yeah.
So I think patience is probably the biggest thing.
Okay. Love that.
And I love the idea of teamwork, like because I did self-publish and it was all on me, it's been nice to get like other ideas. I feel like, people always say like 2 brains are better than 1, and that's how I feel. My editor and my agent both love Taylor Swift. Like we're all like girls, like,
Stop.
So it's like having 3 of me, but like with other brains, and it's fun to like bounce ideas off of each other. And I feel like I just get such a better like story out of it.
Oh, for sure. I love that so much. That is so great. How has your approach to writing or publishing changed now that you're working on a second book for the traditional market?
Wow, good question. Okay, so much has changed. So like what you were saying earlier about how you can feel like how therapeutic writing, call it what you want, was, I think there was like a lot of like really deep, like what my old English teacher called it poetic. And I do think there's like a lot of like when I wrote the book, I was on Pinterest all the time. I was scrolling through like thought catalog on TikTok, like saving all these, watching poets, like do all these things. Because that's the kind of writing, if I ever thought I was going to write a book, I always thought I would write like that. And I just realized that there's so many books like that in that space. And like, I thought I could just do better in fiction.
Yeah.
So I think it was a kind of a cross between the two. And maybe there was like less dialogue or imagery or scenery. So now that I'm writing my next book, I'm like definitely trying to make it a little bit more traditional, but there's still like really big pockets of these big emotions, whether they be sad or whether they're happy.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot. It still feels very much like me, but it's been like a struggle. Like it's taken me like an entire year basically to get this draft. This is just my second draft, but like to get it to a place where I'm like, oh, okay, this is what the book is about. Because the last one, it was like all vibes, no plot. And a lot of people have said that's what Call It What You Want was too. And I'm just like, okay, like
really?
I have to, I don't think that, but I might be too close to the source.
Yeah.
It's definitely opened my eyes. I want to take a like plotting class. I did a writing workshop last fall, which was really helpful. And that was just basically like getting people's opinions on your writing and everything. And I learned some stuff in there, but I want to do something a little bit more lecture based.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like I have a lot to learn too. So
I completely feel that. I actually want to do that too.
Yeah, it's given me a little bit more pressure, like having another book, especially like knowing how well that one did. I don't expect any of my other ones to do that well. And I also think that Call It What You Want did better during the self-publishing era than it did, like, traditionally speaking. So I'm curious just to see, like, how my career continues to, like, unfold. But I don't ever want to, like, expect anything, if that makes sense. Like, it's given me more pressure. So I feel like the need to deliver a better story.
Yeah, I totally get that. I get having low expectations because you don't want to get too excited, but know that as a reader and a fan, I have high expectations. I know you're going to meet them, so it's going to be good. I'm excited.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Many writers dream of taking the similar leap of going from self-published to traditional publishing. What advice would you give someone who's self-published and hoping to transition into traditional publishing? Sorry.
I know, I'm like, it's so hard because we don't know what the future of TikTok is, right? Like, I don't know when you're posting this, but in a few weeks it could be there, it could be gone. I think my biggest thing, and this is going to sound really cliche, is just like kind of be yourself, like what you do on TikTok. Like, I feel like you have made a really cool brand, like the wannabe author. Like, I love that. And I think people like us can be really creative and we work well in front of the camera. So I think that's a plus. Yeah. I think that appealing to the audience that you're trying to write to is like your number one goal. I've seen a lot of authors, share their journey of like being a self-published author, and they talk about like, here's a day in my life writing the book, and like I save them because I think they're so inspirational, but I have no idea what their books are about or like what they're like, you know, like I don't. So I think there has to be this healthy balance of like different content pillars, and I work in social media, that was my full-time job before this, and I still do some of that. So just making sure you're hitting like all the marks, like the day in the life, but also promoting your book. And just like I for me, what really worked were the quotes, and like just pulling out like the sad song and being like, if you're in a situation, to read this book, and then a quote, because it speaks for itself. And then people were like, oh, I need more, and then they go and buy it. So that would probably be my number one biggest piece of advice. Like, find a quote that maybe has some Kindle highlights, because you can see that, and like if you're a self-published author, you can see like it'll be like 600 and something highlights on this one sentence, and you're like, oh, that's resonating with people, let me share this. And I think also not being afraid to be vulnerable. Like, some people will be like, I wrote a book and I only sold 5 copies this year, or like I've seen one where it's like, my 70-year-old dad wrote this book, and like his goal is to sell 100 copies, and then it wound up blowing up or something crazy. So like, I don't know, not that that's like, I just feel like sometimes being vulnerable and being like, this is my dream, and like also not giving up. Like, I always just say, just post it. Like, I've seen that Reels is doing that trial reel thing, and I'm like, my friends were talking about it that work in social, and I'm like, I don't really see the point. I feel like just post it. If it flops, it flops. If it does well, it does well. Sometimes you won't know for days or weeks.
Yeah, that's true. They do pick up like randomly all of a sudden in the next few weeks. I feel like you do that really well, especially with your, what is it? You're usually drinking your wine and you have something I love those.
I think I'm an alcoholic. I was like,
not at all.
It's literally just like right before I go out, I have like one glass of wine, and then I just like do like 6 videos in a row, but that's been like my go-to. I feel like I want to show a little bit more personality, but it's hard because I just sometimes don't know. That's why I feel like I've been doing YouTube, and I'm sure that's what you've been doing too. You do a really good job showing your personality. Like, I feel like you're the same now that I've seen you like in videos and stuff.
Thank you. Right back at you. I sure try, at least. Okay. Sorry, I have to read these or else I won't be able to.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm a stutterer. Okay. Now that you have experienced both worlds of self-publishing and traditional publishing, do you see yourself sticking to traditional publishing, or could you see yourself returning to self-publishing someday?
I think I'll stick to traditional publishing. I know in like contracts and stuff, there's a clause, like a part that's like, you can't publish anything outside of like this contract or anything like that. And I really really love my agent. I think the biggest difference is having that help. And I couldn't imagine going back and doing it again. I think if I were like really trying to sell a book and for whatever reason no one was picking it up, then maybe I would take a break. But then I feel like you kind of maybe lose the momentum of your readers or your followers. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be in like 5 years, let alone like 10. And same with social media. So I don't know. I think you just have such a bigger backing with traditional publishing, and being in stores, like that was a big thing for me. I think my cover speaks for itself a lot of times, and people will just pick it up because they see it on a shelf, which I didn't have the luxury of doing that. Same with book signings. And I do think, and I don't know if I should say this, but like I do think there's more validity in being a traditionally published author from the industry, not necessarily like from my opinion or from readers. Readers sometimes don't even know the difference. But I think you're taken a little bit more seriously by the industry when you have a publisher. So I'm hoping that I don't have to ever return to it. My goal would be to stay. Because I can't imagine like doing it without my team.
Yeah, no, that's so good. It's so good to know that you have a good team. Like, that's awesome.
Well, I remember when I had already signed with my publisher, I was getting, so I had two big booms. It was last like June, July when I first released, and then again in December, January. And January, my book was only online for 11 days, and I sold my most copies in those 2 weeks than I had in any other month because of like 2 viral TikToks or something crazy. It was nuts. Like I sold like 1,400 copies in a day, one of the days. I was like,
so cool.
I do miss seeing the stats. Like I can't see any of that now. You get like reports every 6 months, and I don't even really know how to read them. So mine I won't really get until this spring because the last one ended in June. So it was only 2 weeks of reporting for me. So once I get a good one, I'll probably have a meeting with my agent. But I had publishers reaching out to me, like just straight up editors, like no agents. One was like from a big 5, and I remember being like, oh no, did I make the wrong decision? Because my publisher is Source Books. They're a smaller, like indie-ish publisher out of Chicago, but they're owned by Penguin, like Random House. And then they just started an imprint with Cosmo, which like is super cool because my dream job in college used to be like to work for Cosmo, and I wanted to move to New York, and that's kind of why I made Sloan do what she did. My book. But anyway, I remember being like, oh, is this a regret? But sometimes there is something special about like finding the right people and not caring about the name of the publisher or how big they are, or even like the sum of your advance. Like mine wasn't really exactly what I wanted, but at the same time, like these people have been doing this is their job, their livelihood, like they know more than me. And just being able to be like, okay, I'm gonna trust them because I like this person. For me, it was never about the money. It was always about finding people who believed in this story. And that's, I found that. I also feel that way about my therapist. Like, I may not have a boyfriend yet, but my therapist and I are like this. And the same with my team. I'm like, girlhood.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. See, therapists are awesome.
They're the best.
I like my therapist too. She birthed me. So she's pretty cool.
Me too.
Let's see. I feel like you kind of mentioned this with the whole, someone saying it's more vibes than plot, but what's the most unexpected feedback you've received about your book?
Okay, well, there was a lot of expected feedback. Like some people, I got like, I don't do this anymore, but I used to go on Goodreads and like look at the reviews because at first I was like high, like on a high, like off the good ones, and then I started to get the bad ones, and people would say like, croutons have more personality than these 2 characters, or like, I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. Like, you're right. No, like you're right. Like I get it. But I think I like just held so much weight for me because in a way, like I was Sloan. Even though like I wrote this book loosely inspired by a situationship I was in, like it was very different. I didn't want to like invade anyone's privacy. But I would say that I'm more like Sloan, and then my ex would be more like Ethan in just like his avoidance
Yeah.
attachment like issues, but other than that, like the family dramas, like all of that stuff was like very different.
Yeah.
But I would say like some people like the happily ever after part of it, like some people refuse to read it if it doesn't have a happily ever after, and I didn't realize that going in. I mean, I really didn't know much about reading. Like I had really only read Colleen Hoover, Emily Henry, and like Jenny Han. I think I was like starting my reading era, so I wasn't like in the book community, like I wasn't following book talkers, and some people love it, and I think this book appealed to people that actually weren't readers.
Yeah.
Like people are like, I haven't read a book in years, but I picked yours up and read it in a day. And I think that's really cool. Like your book got me into reading. Like I love that I could do that for people. But I was like really like some people would be like, this book sucked, and then I didn't get a happily ever after. And I was like, I think you're missing a little bit. But I would say like that was my biggest like, yeah, unexpected. Like I didn't realize how much weight a happily ever after held in like the genre, and I technically it can't be romance because it doesn't have a traditional happily ever after.
Yeah. Well, I don't agree with any of those reviews.
Okay.
I seriously, and you know what? When you said poetic, I think that is very well said about your book. It is very poetic. Like I feel like you get so much from what's happening between the characters than rather like in the characters themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely like, and it's a lot of back and forth. Like that's what like the vibes people said, it felt repetitive. Also, that was another unexpected one, but I felt like it was because of this, it was the same cycle. And also each time they got into the same fight, you could see like she started to realize more and more that that wasn't like her end game.
No, for sure. And I feel like relationships like that are repetitive because you're both fighting for something. Yeah, I thought it was very well done. Okay. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't know Zoom needs to be upgraded, so it said we have 10 minutes.
You know, if you have to send another link, you can do that too. I have like as much time as you need.
Okay. Well, we're nearly done. Actually, I think we're on the we're on the rapid fire questions that are just kind of fun than anything. So sorry, I was just warning you if it all of a sudden cuts out.
I saw that too, but I wanted you to know like I'm fine with whatever.
Okay, you're a peach. I adore you. Okay, so these are just kind of fun rapid fire questions. But what is your favorite writing snack and or drink?
Honestly, I can't snack when I'm writing because then I'm just like hand in the bag.
Yeah.
Like, but my favorite snack in general is Cheez-Its. I love them. And then drink. I love a glass of red wine, and I definitely drank a lot of wine when I was writing Call It What You Want, which may or may not have contributed to some of my spelling errors, but like I can't ever, you can never drink more than like 2 glasses. Like I can't look at my phone, let alone like a computer screen if I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Really. So, I would say a glass of red wine or like a poppy in a wine glass has been fun.
Yeah. Poppies are so good.
Yeah.
I love Okay, are there any out-of-pocket genres that you would like to try your hand at in writing in the future?
If I'm being honest, I don't see myself doing anything besides romance, but I had this idea, like when I first started writing Call It What You Want, to write like this kind. Have you ever seen Flight Attendant on HBO Max? I think. Okay, it's like a funny, like it's kind of like a dark comedy-ish, but like she basically wakes up next to a guy and he was like murdered in after they have like a one-night stand, and I was like, and then I came up with this concept that's kind of like that. So maybe, but I still think it would be romance and it'd be like very funny, but I haven't thought about that one in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it. I mean, anything you come out with, I'll read. So, what is your favorite comfort book or series, if you have one?
Magnolia Parks was a big one for me.
Yes.
And again, I think that like a lot of people hated that. I've learned like that trivial books like sometimes are good. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people don't love Emily Henry or whatever, even though she's widely accepted. I loved Magnolia Parks. I thought that it was just, again, poetic, like exactly what I needed to read. I also love Normal People. Another one that's kind of, and I feel that way about the show. I love that it ends without the happily ever after.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it's funny that you say that. I actually keep your book and Magnolia Parks right next to each other because they just give me the same book.
Wait, that's so cute. I have my favorite books on my desk too, and Magnolia Parks is on there.
I love that.
Be Read, Tell Me Lies. Tell Me Lies is like,
I actually haven't read that
good,
one.
But it's not a comfort read.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What is next for you? Any teasers about your second book or future projects?
So, second book, I don't have a date or anything.
Yeah.
We talked like 2026. She said maybe spring. I would love for it to be like early spring, like maybe like February, March-ish.
Yeah.
I turn 30 next year in May, so I'd love to like be done with like book tour before then.
Mm-hmm.
If I get to go on one again, that would be great. We don't have a title. Like, I can tell you that it is a traditional romance, so it has a happily ever after.
Okay.
It's about an author, so that's about the only tie to me. Like, I think I had so much insecurity writing a book loosely inspired by something in my life. Like, you can't imagine the things I've heard in real life from like people in my circle. I don't know how my ex feels. Like, I'm ready to like move on from that book and start, talking about something else.
Yeah.
But as a writer, and I'm sure you can agree with this, there's something about being able to write your feelings and emotions and experiences into a book. Like, hopefully these books live well past me.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I be like going through life and not taking things that I've experienced and putting them into my art? I feel like a lot of people do that. So I wanted to kind of document like this whole like unexpected author thing and like book tour and just like things. It kind of reminds me a bit of like Daisy Jones and the Six. Like,
Okay.
I loved watching that because you get to see them on tour and how they become a band. And like, I wanted something that, Call It What You Want was so relatable because a lot of people have been there, but I wanted something that was a little bit more like out of the box.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I can tell you about that one. But
Love it. I'm so excited. That's going to be so good.
Thanks. And hopefully I'll sell book 3 this year, like get a deal on that.
Yeah.
And that one is probably my favorite of the 3.
Really?
So, yeah, and I haven't even started. Oh, it's also, none of them are tied together. Like, they're all different characters and stuff.
Okay, love that. That is so exciting, Alyssa. I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
Okay, where can listeners find you and your books?
My books, anywhere. You can get them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, some small retailers. Like
just
indie
anywhere.
Bookstores. And then on Instagram and TikTok, my first and last name is my username. I did start a YouTube, and I posted like a week in my life on Deadline, which I know you have been so supportive on YouTube, which is fun. But if you're trying to write a book or you're curious about like, author life, I'm hoping to keep working on that. It's just hard to film. Like, I'm like, I gotta remember to film. So
no, I love that.
And I have a Substack. Basically everything is linked in my bio. So
and I love your Substack. The whole vibe of it, so fun.
Thank you.
You're killing it. You're killing it. Thank you so much for meeting with me today, Alyssa. Seriously, I adore you. You're an inspiration.
I adore you. You're so nice. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course. I'm so excited to see what you come out with. And excited for listeners to hear more about you, your journey. I know when I had a few people reach out to me and when I said I just scheduled an interview with one of my favorite authors, people were like, "Who?" I was like, "Alyssa," and they're like, "I've heard of her book. I've heard it's so good." I'm like, "You need to read it. You can't just hear it's so good." So I know people are seriously going to enjoy this episode. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. It was so fun to meet you.
It was so fun to meet you too. I hope you have the best day. And if you ever need anything, please let me know.
No, I can't wait to read your book. Keep me posted.
I will. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Bye.
Bye.